What is it that gives meaning to our life, or what is a meaningful life? Dear friends, often people ask the million-dollar question, what is it that gives meaning to our life, or what is a meaningful life? Jesus answers this question in today's Gospel. In the Gospel, we find a tricky question, a trap, designed to ensnare or incriminate Jesus, which is the greatest commandment of the law. We have his brilliant response, the twofold commandment of love of God and love of neighbor. It is spoken with total authority, so simple yet so profound, a distillation of all his teaching, and in fact of all divine revelation. They are quoted directly from the Pentateuch. Both the commandments that Jesus mentions are found in the Old Testament, and surprisingly, neither is among the 10 Commandments. The first is taken from the book of Deuteronomy, and the second is from the book of Leviticus. For the modern audience, one might rephrase the question in various ways. How is any human life best fulfilled? Or what makes my life a meaningful one? The answer, it happens not by success, but by love. Another way to put this question is, what is moral living? The answer, it is a life that is lived well, but not according to political correctness, but according to love. Another way to put the same question is, what is the most important thing in our life? The answer is, not pleasure, not wealth, not health, not beauty, not fame, but love and only love. As St. Paul says, without love, everything else in life becomes merely booming gongs or clanging cymbals, profiting us nothing. 1 Corinthians 13:1. Of course, the order of twin love is essential. Love of God first, with all our heart and with all our soul and with all our mind. Anything less than that would be unworthy of God and unworthy of us as well. Then, secondly, in the strict dependence on the first, love of neighbor, love that is similar but not the same. We love our neighbor as one made in God's image. We love him as one who with us is utterly dependent on God, who with us is in total need of God's blessing and mercy. We desire our neighbor's good as we desire our own good. This good must ultimately be the right relationship with God. In fact, we can only love others rightly and adequately when the first love is properly in place. Our movies are full of stories of disordered human passions, which appear to be love, but often turn out to be consuming, irrational, and destructive. If we love another person or thing with the worship due to God alone, we demean and enslave ourselves, fall into idolatry, and project our love towards an illusion. Whereas human love that is nourished at the wellspring of uncreated eternal love will tend to flourish, deepen, fulfill, liberate, and give joy and life, and will eventually become a blessing for us. In a similar way, the generous and well-ordered love of neighbor becomes for us a primary and indispensable means of loving God. As Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there and go first and be reconciled with your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Mathew chapter 5, verse 23. Or, as in St. John, if anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. All the saints have expressed their love for God by seeking out the most worthless, the poorest, most humiliated, weakest members of the society, and loving them and raising them up to reveal their intrinsic dignity as persons worthy of love. The scribes and Pharisees could accept the conclusion of Jesus today that the twin commandment of love is an adequate summary of the whole Old Testament. So the question arises, if this is so, what is new or different in his teaching? The difference he makes is radical and transforming. He just does not preach, but he becomes a role model of that love. In the first place, Jesus invites us to love according to the measure of his own love, the love whereby he loved both his Father and us to the end, faithful even in crucifixion and death, and even more so precisely as a result of his saving death and resurrection. Jesus now invites us to love with the power of his own love. So we are to love with the very love of the heart of Jesus. The whole of the Old Testament was a preparation, a foretaste, a promise, a guide towards this. Now that Christ has come, living according to the twin commandment of love must be the central project of our life. This is how we must measure success or failure, the meaningfulness of life or the lack of it. It is on this that we will be judged ultimately. Going back to the question I posed at the beginning, we can say in one sentence, a meaningful life is a life that is lived out in love, with the sacrifices that are part of that love. May God help us to live out this twin commandment of love. May God bless you all.